Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. You're probably like, what are you holding, Reagan? It's a mini microphone. My boyfriend got me one for Christmas. I'm testing it out and I think it sounds so much better. At least better in the sense of my apartment is very echoey, the hardwood floors, and honestly, I don't know what else. We have a lot of furniture, so I don't know why it's so echoey, but we get a lot of echo in the living room, and so I think that this is just going to help a lot, and I'm really excited. I'm not going to be using this for all of my videos. It's literally probably just going to be the sit down ones, but definitely not in like vlogs or anything unless I'm out in public on like a busy street. But I thought it would be fun to at least just test it out, and if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. We're going to be doing the end of year 2025 or the 2025 end of year book tag. I know we're already in 2026. I'm filming this on January 2nd. I've been out of town and I honestly had to go through these questions and like figure out what my answers were and stuff. I don't even know how many questions there are. Maybe like 20. I don't know. This is the one that I've done like every single year the past like 3 years. So I just took the same ones again. And honestly, there are a few questions that I was not even able to pick an answer to. And I'll tell y'all what those were. I also pulled down all of the physical books. So I will be showing you if that book is like an answer. And if it's not, if I read it on my Kindle or if it's like an audiobook, I will put it up on the screen. So some of these questions I've also just kind of added because I feel like they fit in here. So the first one is, how many books did you read in 2025? I read 63 books. 63. My goal was 60. So I did meet my reading goal for the year. Last year, I think I only read 60 books. So I only read 3 more books than 2024, which is still great. And that's like a really good pace for me. We'll get to what my reading goal is going to be for 2026, but 63 books is like literally perfect for me. The second question is, what is the best recommendation you got this year? And when I say this year, I mean 2025. I genuinely think that it was Bride. No one even recommended this to me like super specifically. It was Heather McLary that recommended this. She was raving about it, talking about it nonstop because Mate was coming out soon. And so I think she did a reread of this. And she was basically just telling everyone, like, I recommend this to all of y'all. So I read this, gave it a 5 stars. It ended up being one of my favorite books of the entire year. For those who don't know, this is like a werewolf vampire it's better than Twilight in my opinion. It really, really is. I love Twilight, but this was just such a refreshing, more modern story. I don't know. I really enjoyed this. So the next 2 questions are actually, they have the same answers. So the first question of the 2 that are the same is, what was the most disappointing book of the year? And also, what was an overhyped book that you read? Literally, I will never shut up about this. It was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I hated this book. I hated this book. I DNF'd it, so I don't even know if I should count that. But I got like about halfway. I don't think I still have the bookmark in here, but I got about halfway through and I could not stand it. I thought Evelyn was the most annoying character ever. And this was a surprise for me because I feel like so many people love this book and so many people love Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is the only book I read by her this year, but did not love this book. I thought Evelyn was one of the most annoying characters I have ever read. The next one is an underdog book. I literally sat and I thought about what my answer should be to this, and I could not think of a single book that like was really just like an underdog book. So I went for a series, and that was The Artifacts of Aranos. I don't know how you pronounce that last word, but I think there's 5 books in the series, and I read them all earlier this year, like back in springtime, I think. And I've seen a few people read this. I have. But they were all on Kindle Unlimited. I had never heard of the series before, and I ended up loving this series. I loved it. I devoured it. It was so good. And it's generally not like I don't know. I want to say like popular series because I feel like I don't see it that much. I've seen a few people read it here and there, but I never that's not like a very mainstream series, and I loved that series. I would recommend it to anyone and everyone if you like fantasy. It is Trials though. One of the books is. So if you don't like fantasy trials or like trials and fantasy books, because I know some people don't, I know that's getting a little like too popular in fantasy books nowadays. Maybe don't read it if you don't like trials. But the next one is a book that surprised you. I took this in the sense of a book that surprised me in a good way, and that was Dial A for Aunties. This was out of my comfort zone, and I say that in this was like a comedy. I don't even know, a comedy like thriller. Is that what the official genre would be? I loved this book. I really did. I thought it was so funny. I think I rated it like 4.5 stars. The comedy aspect of this was what was out of my comfort zone. I've never read a book to where I just like, I sat here on my couch and read this in like one sitting because it's a very thin book. I was laughing so hard and I did not think that I would like this book as much as I did. So I think this one ended up surprising me probably the most out of the whole year. The next one is your favorite book couples or favorite book couple of the year, Shane and Ilya. I will never shut up about heated rivalry. Shane and Ilya are my babies. They weren't technically a couple in the first book, but they were in the long game. And I love those men with my whole heart. I love them so much. The next one is your favorite main characters of the year. Again, I would put Shane and Ilya in this category. I also put Jax from the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. Jax, I think about this man like weekly. I really, really do. He was in Caraval a little bit, like the Caraval series, but he was a main character in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. The second book, which was The Ballad of Never After. Is that what I can see? I'm like squinting, looking at my bookshelf. That was one of my also favorite books of the year. Jax in that was just, I think about him a lot. I really, really do. I don't know. I'm just going to leave it at those three. Ilya, Shane, and Jax. New favorite author that you discovered this year, easily Kristen Hanna. She is one of my favorite authors. She really, really is. I was going to say Rachel Reed, but I'm not going to say her because I've read a lot more Kristen Hanna books. I read The Nightingale back in, I don't know, spring or summer. That was like my favorite book of all time this year. Number one favorite book. And after that, I ended up reading The Four Winds. I read The Great Alone. I just got The Women. I read a lot of her books and I rated all of them very, very highly. She is such a good writer. I now love, that's a genre. I don't think that's a question, but that's a genre that I discovered I love this year is historical fiction. So yeah, very easily Kristen Hanna. Okay, the next two questions are ones that I literally could not think of answers for, and I'm not going to force an answer if I can't think of it. So one of them was an author that didn't work out for you. There are a good amount of books that I rated, like 2 stars. I am not going to base one book by an author off if that author didn't work out for me this year. I'm not doing that. If I read like 3 or 4 books by an author and didn't like any of them, then I would have had an answer. But like none of the books that I read that I gave 2 stars, I never read like another book by that author, if that makes sense. So I feel like I really don't have an answer for this. And the next one is, what is the happiest book you read this year? I'm not even joking. I went through all 63 books that I read and was like, none of these books are just all happy. Like there's something really, like the plot, like it goes up and then it always comes back down in some way. I could not like categorize a single book into the happiest book that I've read. So I just genuinely don't have an answer for this either. I really, really don't. The next one is, what is the saddest book you read this year? I forgot I'm supposed to be holding these books up. So I actually have 2 books for this. This is where I need to like kind of go hands-free for a second. Actually, I'm just going to hold it and we'll hold up each book separately. So I have 2. The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. I cried my eyes out almost the entire way through this book. Like the whole book was really, really, really sad. And I read this pretty recently. And then shocker, The Nightingale, also my favorite book of the entire year. Bawled my eyes out to this book too. Both of these were just so, so sad. The Last Letter is more fresh on my brain because like I said, I just read it, I think last month. Both of these books just absolutely tore me apart. The next one is the most frustrating book that you read this year. All I literally chose was The Tenant. I also wrote another one down. Hello Stranger by Catherine Sinner. I don't have the physical copy of that book. I read that on my Kindle. Both of these books were so incredibly cringy to me that I wanted to DNF both of them. I just read this one more recently, like back in October. I should have DNF'd this, and Hello Stranger I probably also should have DNF'd, which is really sad because what is the other book by Catherine Sinner that I read? The Bodyguard, is that it? I liked that book a lot. I read that in 2024, I think. But I was not loving Hello Stranger. I thought it was so cringy. I thought it was so unrealistic. And those were just 2 books that like came to my mind when I thought of this question. Okay, this was the easiest question. This is probably the first one that I answered when I was going through these. And it's, what was the best book adaptation of the year? Literally Heated Rivalry. I don't know what else y'all want me to say. I really, really don't. Heated Rivalry. Your favorite cover of the year. This was another tiebreaker. And I feel like I honestly can't choose. Like, I feel like I may have like 5 or 6, but 2 that just kind of like really popped out to me, and I at least had the physical copies of these. One was The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I think this is just I was gonna say cutest. I feel like that's not the right word to describe this. This cover is just so like hauntingly beautiful. I don't know how to explain that. That's a real person, by the way. That is not like artwork. That is a real person that posed for this picture. Rachel Gillig, posted like a little behind the scenes, and in an interview was like, no, that's a real person. So I just think that this is absolutely beautiful. I also chose House of Flame and Shadow. I read this book in January. I think this was the first book that I read in 2025. And I also think that this cover is absolutely beautiful. I think all of the Crescent City covers are beautiful. Something about fantasy books. Their covers are just, I love them so much. The next one is a book that you haven't stopped thinking about. So many of these books could go to so many of these answers could go to like so many of these other questions, but I put Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. This is the second book to Phantasma, and I feel like this is an unpopular opinion. Not that I'm like keep thinking about it, but that I feel like most people liked Phantasma so much more than Enchantra. I was the complete opposite. I loved Enchantra 10 times more than Phantasma, and I don't remember what I rated it. It was probably like a 4.5. I was so unexpectedly surprised by this book. I still think about it. I still think about this book 6 months later. And it's not even like it was such a life-changing book. I really, really liked it. So I wrote that down. The next one is an unpopular book that you loved. I feel like a lot of the unpopular books that I read this year I didn't love any of them. Like, there were some books that I read that literally had under like 10,000 ratings on Goodreads, which is really small. That's a really small group of people. So the one that I ended up going with was Spellcaster by Jamin Eve, I think is her name. There's lore behind this book and how I came to find it and stuff. And I know other people have read this book, but it's one of those books that I didn't see a whole lot about. Like, it's not one of those I keep saying like mainstream. Like, I don't see it all over TikTok. I don't see it all over Instagram. Not every single person that I watch on YouTube is reading this. This was a really good book. I read it, I think back in October. It's about a witch going to a witch like academy, and she falls in love. Well, she starts to fall for her rival warlock, this guy that goes there. And their like families are rivals and stuff. I really, really liked this book. And the second book comes out this year, I think. The next one is popular book you didn't love. I put Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo again because everyone's read that book, and I feel like most people do love that book, but I did not. So just put that again. The next one is a book that you thought you'd love, but you didn't. I may get hate for this one, but it was The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This wasn't a bad book. It really, really wasn't, but I found this book. I think I'm just stupid. I really do. I just found this book a little bit confusing to me. The time jumps and stuff were just, I don't know. I was just confused. I don't know how else to explain it. Didn't hate it, but did not love it. And this was a book that I honestly thought I might rate 5 stars. I might give it another shot sometime soon, but yeah, this was a book that I unfortunately wanted to love but did not. The next one is book with the most unique concepts that you read this year. I don't even know. I feel like so many books follow the same sort of plot. They just like get different characters and stuff. In the Veins of the Drowning, which I just finished reading a few weeks ago, that was interesting, and I said that in one of my vlogs because it had to do with sirens, like the things that live in the water. I've never read a book about sirens before, so that was an interesting and unique concept because I've never even heard of a book that had like the main character was a siren. So that was pretty unique. I'm trying to think. Phantasma was pretty unique. Like, you know, you're in this like haunted house and you have like these games that you have to play and stuff. Like, that was pretty cool. I feel like it would have to be a fantasy book to have such a unique concept. I don't know, maybe one of those. I'm not sure. Books that you read this year and you would reread next year. I put Enchantra and then Bride and Mate. Mate is the second book to Bride. I talked about Bride earlier in one of the earlier questions. I loved Bride. I loved Mate. This one just came out a few months ago. And I'm being dead honest, this is a series I would reread over and over again, kind of like Heather. I think she rereads Bride and now probably Mate every fall. And I definitely plan on doing that. The next one is a priority read for 2026. I really want to read the original Dracula book that came out in like I don't even know, like the early 1900s, or was it like 1899? I don't know. I got very into vampires and Dracula this year, specifically the new Dracula movie that has only been released in Europe. Um, it's not released in the US yet, but I won't let y'all know how I watched that. I just did. Okay, fine. I watched it illegally online, and a lot of people have. I don't know why it's not released in the US yet. I think there was some drama with Nosferatu coming out, but you should go watch it. It was the one of the best movies I have ever seen. I'm obsessed with the new Dracula. I'm gonna go see it in theaters when it gets released in the US in February. I'm gonna rewatch it for like the fifth time. So I kind of want to do like a reading like classics, like real classics video, and read Dracula. I also want to read Cassandra Clare. I've never read a book by her. I have one of them back here. It's like Clockwork Angel or something. Um, I have never read one of her books. Never did in middle school, never did in high school. So I kind of want to get into the, like, I know she has like 3 different series or something like that. I'm not sure, but I do want to get into her series. There are so many books, you guys. I could not possibly list all of the books that I want to read next year. But those are just 2 of like the main priorities for me. Okay, the next one is, what is your reading goal for 2026? I am staying, or no, I think I put 65 books. I was going to say I was staying with 60 like I did in 2025, but I ended up going with 65. I think if I was able to read 63 books this year, I think I can go for 65 and push myself to literally read 2 more books. I feel like that's a safe goal for me. At least right now, I don't want to say never, because never say never, right? But I am not someone that could ever see myself reading 100 books a year. I just really don't. I never want to push myself to like read when I don't want to read. I want to enjoy my reading time and what I'm reading. So I'm just going to stay low. I say that's low. Some people only read like 10 books a year, and that is completely fine, and that's amazing. What I'm trying to say, I'm sticking with what I know, and I'm staying at 65. And then I don't know why this one is the last one. I guess I could have switched it, but it says books that you wish you had gotten to this year. Again, so many books. I could not possibly name them all. One that comes to mind is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. I actually have the copy up here on the shelf behind me on the very top. I got this book months ago and was planning on reading it, and I never got to it. So that is a book that will also be kind of like a priority for me in the new year. I'm surprised I never got to it, considering I literally just said I was really into vampires this year, and I'm pretty sure that's about like toxic lesbian vampires. Pretty sure that's the exact words that Heather McLary used, but I need to get to that. Okay, guys, that is going to be the end of this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed my end of the year tag. I will copy all of these questions down below in the the description. So if you want to go and copy and paste them to your video, or if you just want to look through them, you can. They'll be down there. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you agreed or disagreed with any of my, I was going to say decisions. Answers, I guess, is a better word. And yeah, I just love you guys so much. 2026 is going to be an amazing year. We're going to read some really good books. I'm manifesting it. And yeah, I love you guys so much. I hope you had an amazing new year. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.